The galaxy had a way of sorting life into neat categories. Strong races ruled. Smart races advised. Weak races served, or vanished. Humanity, according to the Galactic Concord, belonged nowhere important. They were listed as Class 3 sentients, short-lived, emotionally unstable, technologically behind. Their ships were slow. Their weapons crude. Their worlds divided by endless internal conflict. The aliens called them the quiet species. Not because humans were peaceful, but because no one bothered to listen to them. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Concord floated above the blue star Kepler like a crown of silver glass. Thousands of delegates filled the vast chamber, beings of light, metal, scales, and vapor. Holographic banners showed the seals of 100 empires. At the center hovered High Arbiter Zalvorin, a towering insectoid with crystal eyes and a voice that echoed like stone grinding. "The matter before us," Zalvorin announced, "is the Terran expansion petition." A soft ripple of amusement passed through the hall. On a small platform stood Ambassador Elias Ward, a human in a dark uniform, hands clasped behind his back. His face was calm but his heart beat hard. He was alone. No guards. No weapons. Just words. "We request recognition of Earth as a sovereign member of the Concord," Ward said clearly, "and protection from hostile encroachment." A massive reptilian delegate laughed, a deep booming sound. "Protection?" sneered Lord Croth of the Varn Dominion. "From whom? Pirates? Your people cannot even defend one planet without fighting yourselves." More laughter. Ward did not respond right away. He had learned silence unsettled them. "The Varn fleets pass near your system weekly," Croth continued. "By ancient right, unclaimed space may be utilized." "Utilized?" Ward repeated softly. "You mean harvested?" Croth's eyes narrowed. "Choose your words carefully, human." "I always do," Ward replied. High Arbiter Zalvorin raised a claw. "The Concord finds humanity's request premature. Terrans lack the military strength, economic value, and strategic relevance required for membership." Ward met the Arbiter's many eyes. "Then we will gain them," he said. This time the laughter was louder. 3 weeks later, the Varn Dominion crossed into the Sol system. They did not declare war. They never did. The Varn believed war was for equals. Their fleet was vast, black-spined battleships blotting out starlight, carriers spilling fighter swarms like insects. Their goal was simple: seize Earth's outer colonies, strip resources, enslave survivors. They expected panic. They found silence. Human ships did not rush forward. No desperate transmissions. No chaotic defense lines. Instead, the Sol system went dark. Satellites powered down. Stations vanished from scans. Even Earth dimmed, its energy output dropping below normal planetary levels. Admiral Kethrax, commander of the Varn invasion force, watched the readings with confusion. "They hide," he hissed. "Typical prey behavior." "Orders?" asked his second. "Proceed inward. Begin harvesting Mars." The Varn fleet advanced and crossed the line. Space twisted. Gravity surged. Without warning, 3 Varn battleships slammed into invisible wells, their hulls screaming as artificial gravity crushed them inward. Power systems failed. Shields collapsed. "What is this?" Kethrax roared. A calm human voice answered on all channels. "Good evening, Admiral." The hologram flickered to life. It showed a human woman in a naval uniform, silver insignia on her collar. Her eyes were steady. "Cold. I am Admiral Hannah Okoye, United Earth Defense Fleet." Kethrax snarled. "You dare ambush a Dominion fleet?" Okoye nodded once. "You dared enter our home." Human ships appeared, dozens then hundreds, sliding out of folded space. They were smaller than Varn vessels, sleeker, angular, glowing with unfamiliar energy patterns. "We thought humans lacked jump suppression," Kethrax said. "We did," Okoye replied. "Yesterday." She raised a hand. Space ignited. Human rail lances fired at near light speed, punching through Varn armor like paper. Missiles curved intelligently, dodging point defense, striking engines, bridges, command nodes. The Varn fleet reeled. "They are targeting officers," a Varn sensor master screamed. Okoye leaned closer to the camera. "You see, Admiral," she said, "we studied you. Your doctrines. Your pride." She smiled faintly. "You never changed tactics mid-battle." Kethrax realized the truth too late. Humans were not improvising. They were executing a plan. Across the galaxy, sensors flared. The Concorde watched in shock as the mighty Varn Dominion lost 12 capital ships in under 6 minutes. High Arbiter Zalvorin stared at the data, antennae trembling. "That is impossible," he whispered. An aide replied, voice unsteady, "The humans, they were hiding their true capacity." On Earth, billions watched silent screens as humanity's fleet held the line. Ambassador Ward stood in the ruins of the old Concorde embassy, watching the stars burn. "They thought we were weak," he murmured. Behind him, a general replied, "Let them keep thinking that." Above Earth, the war had only just begun. The defeat of the Varn fleet spread through the galaxy faster than light. Not by signal, by fear. In the crystalline data vaults of the Galactic Concorde, alarms pulsed in colors reserved for extinction-level events. Observers replayed the battle again and again, slowing it down, isolating frames, searching for mistakes. There were none. Human ships moved with terrifying precision. Their weapons were not stronger by raw measure, but smarter. Every shot mattered. Every maneuver anticipated the enemy's response before it happened. High Arbiter Zalvorin remained silent as the final projection faded. 12 capital ships, whispered a vapor-born delegate. Lost to a Class 3 species. Zalvorin's mandibles clicked. Classification will be revised. But revision could not undo panic. In the shadowed halls of the Varn Dominion, rage burned hotter than any star. Admiral Kethrax knelt before the war sovereign Kragtor, his massive scaled body trembling. The sovereign's throne was carved from the remains of conquered species, bone, metal, and crystal fused together. "You failed," Kragtor growled. Kethrax lowered his head. "The humans deceived us. They concealed. They are prey." Kragtor roared, slamming a claw down. "Prey do not ambush predators." "Then humans are no longer prey," Kethrax said quietly. Silence fell. Kragtor's eyes narrowed. "How many ships does Earth possess?" Kethrax hesitated. "Unknown. Their fleets were layered. What we saw may not be their full strength." That admission was more dangerous than defeat. "Mobilize the full Dominion," Kragtor commanded. "Call the Blood Moons. Summon our allies." "But Sovereign," Kethrax said, voice tight, "open war will draw attention." Kragtor's grin was all teeth. "Good." On Earth, attention was exactly what humanity feared. Admiral Hannah Okoye stood in the orbital war chamber, a vast ring overlooking the planet below. Screens showed dozens of systems, glowing with threat markers. "They're regrouping," said General Marcus Hale. "Not just the Varn. Others are watching." "They always were," Okoye replied. Ambassador Elias Ward entered, his expression grim. "The Concorde is convening an emergency summit," he said. "They want explanations." Okoye folded her arms. "Do they? They want to know why a weak species just shattered a major Dominion fleet." Silence hung heavy. Finally Hale spoke. "It's time, isn't it?" Okoye nodded slowly. "Yes." Far beneath Earth's surface, below oceans and cities, ancient doors opened. Facilities built before humanity reached the stars hummed to life. AI cores awakened. Shipyards long hidden in folded space began assembling vessels of terrifying scale. Humanity had never been defenseless. They had been patient. At the Concorde summit, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Delegates arrived flanked by guards. Energy shields shimmered. No one trusted anyone anymore. When Ambassador Ward took the central platform, the room went quiet. "Humans," hissed Lord Croth of the Varn Dominion, his voice dripping venom. "You violated Concorde law by deploying undeclared weapons." Ward met his gaze. "We violated nothing. The law permits self-defense." "You hid military capabilities," Croth snarled. "That is deception." Ward spread his hands. "So is calling invasion utilization." Murmurs rippled through the hall. High Arbiter Zalvorin raised a claw. "Explain yourselves, Terran. Why conceal such power?" Ward inhaled. "Because the galaxy is cruel," he said. "Because every species stronger than us tried to own us. Because you measure worth by force." He paused, letting the words settle. "We learned early that showing strength makes you a target. So we learned something better." "And what is that?" Zalvorin asked. Ward's eyes hardened. "Restraint." The lights dimmed. A massive hologram appeared, ancient Earth, burning skies, nuclear fire. "We almost destroyed ourselves," Ward said. "Twice. We survived because we learned to adapt faster than we hate." Images shifted, human engineers, scientists, soldiers. "We studied alien psychology, doctrine, politics. We mapped your strengths and your blind spots." The hall grew uneasy. You see us as fragile, Ward continued. Short-lived. Emotional. He smiled faintly. That makes us desperate. And desperate species evolve very quickly. An alarm shrieked through the chamber. A Concord aide shouted, multiple fleets detected, Varn signatures. Kragtor had not waited. Stars outside the station darkened as Varn warships emerged from hyperspace, joined by mercenary clans and rival empires hungry for spoils. Panic erupted. This is madness, cried a delegate. Ward activated his comm. Admiral Okoye, he said calmly, they've arrived. Her voice came back steady. We're ready. Outside the station, space rippled again. Human fleets appeared, not hundreds, thousands, including ships the galaxy had never imagined. Massive black constructs bending gravity itself, bristling with silent weapons. Gasps filled the hall. High Arbiter Zalvoran whispered, by the first light. Ward turned back to the assembly. You wanted relevance, he said. You wanted strength. His voice hardened. Welcome to humanity's reveal. Beyond the station, the second battle for Sol began, one that would decide the fate of the galaxy. The second battle for Sol did not begin with gunfire. It began with silence. Across the void, Varn warships drifted in disciplined formation, their hulls glowing with the red sigils of conquest. Around them clustered allied fleets, mercenary clans, rival empires, opportunists drawn by the scent of a wounded prey. They expected chaos. Instead, they found humanity waiting. Human ships formed layered rings around Earth, Luna, and Mars. Small craft darted between massive carriers. Larger vessels, vast, dark, and unfamiliar, hung motionless at the edges of space, like shadows given shape. Admiral Hannah Okoye watched from the command deck of the UES Resolute. Confirm status, she said. All fleets in position, replied her tactical officer. Gravlattice stable. Apex units online. Okoye closed her eyes for a brief moment. So many years of preparation. So many secrets. On the Varn flagship, War Sovereign Kragtor leaned forward in his throne, claws tapping. Why do they wait? He growled. Perhaps fear, suggested a subordinate. Kragtor snarled. Then they will break. He raised a claw. Begin the purge. Varn weapons flared. Space erupted. Energy beams lanced forward, brilliant and brutal, smashing into human outer defenses. Explosions blossomed like dying stars. Smaller human ships were torn apart, debris scattering into the void. Kragtor laughed. They bleed. But Okoye remained calm. Phase 1, she said. Human ships did not retreat. They shifted. Entire formations folded sideways through microjumps, reappearing behind enemy lines. Precision fire tore through engines and command nodes. Varn formations faltered as ships lost cohesion. They're inside our formation, a Varn officer screamed. Okoye watched as human strike wings cut clean paths through enemy fleets. Phase 2, she said. The shadows moved. At the edge of the battlefield, the massive black constructs awakened. Alien sensors screamed in confusion as local gravity spiked. Space bent inward around the human apex vessels, forming invisible wells. What are those things? Kragtor demanded. No one answered. The apex ships fired, not beams, not missiles. Stars. Artificial stellar masses collapsed outward, ripping enemy ships apart molecule by molecule. Entire squadrons vanished, crushed into nothing by controlled gravity singularities. Panic rippled through the attacking fleets. This violates every treaty, screamed a Concord observer. High Arbiter Zalvoran whispered, those treaties assumed humans incapable of such power. On Earth, billions watched the battle unfold through delayed feeds. Cities stood silent. Children clutched parents. Old soldiers wept. Humanity was no longer hiding. Kragtor roared in fury. Focus fire. Destroy those apex vessels. Dozens of ships turned their weapons toward a single black human construct. Okoye's jaw tightened. Now, she said. The apex ship opened. Its hull unfolded like a blooming metal flower, revealing a core of blinding white light. Fire the weight of stars, Okoye commanded. The weapon discharged. Not outward. Inward. A focused collapse of space crushed the attacking fleet's weapon systems into inert scrap without destroying the ships themselves. Power died. Shields fell. Engines froze. Hundreds of enemy vessels drifted, helpless. Okoye exhaled slowly. Capture teams move in. In the Concord assembly, chaos reigned. They could annihilate us all, cried a delegate. Ward stood unmoving watching the feeds. We could, he said. We won't. Zalvoran turned to him. Why spare them? Ward's voice was quiet. Because annihilation teaches nothing. The war was not over. Kragtor refused to yield. Deploy the blood moons, he snarled. From hyperspace emerged ancient Varn weapons, planetoid-scale war engines designed to crack worlds. Earth trembled as alarms wailed. Okoye stiffened. They're targeting the planet, Hale said. Okoye nodded. As expected. She opened a channel. All human fleets, she said, voice steady, this is not a battle for space anymore. Her eyes hardened. This is a battle for home. Human ships converged, forming a living shield around Earth. Apex vessels shifted position, graph fields overlapping. The blood moons fired. Planet-killer beams tore through space. And bent. Human gravity nets curved the attacks away, redirecting them harmlessly into deep space. One beam grazed the moon, carving a glowing scar, but Earth stood unharmed. Shock froze the enemy fleets. Kragtor stared at the impossible readings. They're protecting an entire world, he whispered. Yes, replied Kethrak's voice hollow. They always have. The counterattack was swift. Human fleets surged forward with terrifying coordination. Enemy alliances collapsed as mercenaries fled. Ships surrendered mid-battle. Within hours, the invading force was broken. The battlefield fell quiet. Stars burned calmly again. Okoye opened a channel to the disabled Varn flagship. Kragtor appeared, battered and furious. This changes nothing, he spat. The galaxy will fear you. Okoye met his gaze. We know, she said. That's why we never wanted this war. She paused. But you forced it. Across the galaxy, empires watched in stunned silence. Humanity had not just defended itself. It had redefined power. And the galaxy had only begun to understand the cost of underestimating them. The battlefield around Earth became a graveyard of drifting metal. Broken ships spun slowly in the dark, their power gone, their crews alive but defeated. Human recovery craft moved among them with careful precision, offering aid even to enemies. That act alone terrified the galaxy. Humanity had won. And it had chosen mercy. In the halls of the Galactic Concord, silence replaced chaos. High Arbiter Zalvoran stared at the star map where entire Varn fleets had once been. Delegates who had mocked humanity days earlier now avoided Ambassador Ward's gaze. The balance has shifted, Zalvoran said at last. No, replied an ancient voice from the shadows. It has returned. The chamber lights dimmed. A new presence manifested, tall, luminous, neither solid nor vapor. Its form shifted like a memory struggling to take shape. Gasps echoed. Impossible, whispered a delegate. The Aurelian remnants are extinct. The being inclined its head. We endured, it said. As humans did. Ward felt a chill. Humanity's oldest deep space probes had once picked up Aurelian ruins, civilizations erased before Earth had learned fire. Why reveal yourselves now? Zalvoran demanded. The Aurelian's light dimmed. Because humanity has reached the point where hiding no longer protects them. On Earth, beneath the Himalayas, another door opened. This one had never been meant to open. Admiral Okoye stood before a massive circular chamber etched with symbols older than human writing. At its center hovered a crystalline data core, alien, ancient, and dormant for centuries. General Hale swallowed. We swore never to activate it. Okoye nodded. We also swore to survive. She placed her hand on the console. The core awakened. The Aurelian spoke to the Concord, its voice echoing like distant thunder. Long ago the galaxy burned, it said. A species rose that mastered adaptation itself. They did not conquer with fleets, but with understanding. Images filled the chamber, stars collapsing, civilizations falling. They were called by many names, the Aurelian continued. But in one forgotten tongue, they were called humans. A ripple of disbelief swept the hall. That is impossible, snarled Lord Croth. Humans are young. The Aurelian turned toward him. Your records begin after the last purge, it said. Human records begin after survival. Ward's breath caught. The revelation struck like a supernova. Humanity had existed before, had fallen, nearly erased, and risen again. The Terrans of Earth were not the first humans, but the latest continuation of an ancient lineage that rebuilt itself from extinction. That's why you adapt so fast, Zalvoran whispered. You've done this before. The Aurelian nodded. They forget, it said gently. But their instincts remain. Kragtor did not hear this. The Varn War sovereign sat alone aboard his crippled flagship, staring at the stars. His pride was shattered, but not his hatred. He activated a final, forbidden beacon. If humanity would not be crushed, then the galaxy would burn with them. The beacon reached beyond known space, beyond maps, beyond fear. Something answered. Human sensors screamed across the Sol system. Admiral Okoye stiffened as data flooded her display. Unknown signatures, reported a technician, voice shaking. They're not Varn. Not Concord. The stars themselves seemed to dim. From the dark between galaxies, massive shapes emerged, vast organic constructs older than any civilization. The Null Choir had awakened. The Aurelian remnant turned back to the Concord. They have come, it said softly. They are the reason we hid. The reason so many species fell. What are they? Zalvoran asked. The Aurelian's light flickered. They are extinction. The Null Choir did not communicate. They sang. A low-frequency resonance rippled through space, disabling ships, shattering minds, tearing apart lesser beings from within. Entire Concord fleets went dark in seconds. Panic erupted across the galaxy. Okoye clenched her fists. This is it, Hale said quietly. This is what we prepared for. Okoye nodded. All fleets, she ordered, initiate Protocol Phoenix. Every human ship responded instantly. Deep within their cores, hidden systems activated, technologies derived not from conquest, but from understanding the enemy at a fundamental level. Humanity had not only survived the Null Choir before. They had learned from them. As the first Null Choir vessel approached Earth, its immense form blotting out stars, Okoye opened a channel. To the people of Earth, she said, her voice steady but heavy with emotion, we face something older than fear. She paused. But remember this. Her eyes burned with resolve. They ended us once. They will not do so again. Human fleets surged forward, not in desperation but in unity. Across the galaxy, every species watched as humanity took position at the front of extinction itself. Not as victims, but as guardians. The Null Choir advanced without haste. They never hurried. They had devoured galaxies at their leisure. Their vessels were not built but grown, vast organic cathedrals of bone and light, drifting through space as if carried by invisible currents. Their low-frequency song vibrated across reality itself, a weapon designed not to destroy ships, but to unmake the minds inside them. Entire fleets died screaming without a single shot fired. Except the human fleets. Admiral Hannah Okoye stood at the center of the UES Resolute, her hands steady as the hull trembled. Null resonance detected, reported the science officer. It's trying to rewrite neural patterns. Okoye nodded. Counterharmonics online? Yes, Admiral. The ship hummed. Not louder, but truer. Human vessels began broadcasting complex harmonic fields, mathematical, emotional, chaotic. Music shaped by pain, hope, rage, and survival. Not ordered like the choir's song, but layered, adaptive, alive. The Null Choir faltered. For the first time in eons, their song met resistance. High Arbiter Zalvoran watched from a protected Concord station, his many eyes wide. They're not blocking the signal, he whispered. They're conversing with it. The Aurelian remnant drifted beside him. This is how they survived before, it said. They do not silence extinction. They confuse it. The Null Choir reacted. Their song shifted, deepened, fractured into discordant waves that tore through lesser species' defenses. Entire Allied fleets collapsed, crews lost to madness. Human ships adjusted instantly. New harmonics emerged. Human pilots screamed, laughed, cried, but they held. They're feeding off emotion, Hale said over comms. Pain makes the signal stronger. Good, Okoye replied. We have plenty. On Earth, humanity felt the resonance too. People across the planet experienced vivid memories, wars, disasters, triumphs. Humanity's collective trauma echoed into space, carried by human technology designed to channel emotional resilience itself. The Null Choir recoiled. This was not a species that broke under suffering. This was a species shaped by it. Kragtor watched from his drifting prison ship, horror replacing hatred. They're fighting gods, he whispered. No, replied Admiral Okoye's voice through the channel. We're fighting memory. The Null Choir deployed their harbingers. Smaller, faster constructs surged forward, tearing into human formations with claws of hard light. Human ships were lost. Real losses, real deaths. Okoye's jaw tightened. Release the Phoenix nodes. Hidden across the battlefield, human constructs activated, Small, unassuming devices seeded decades ago. They detonated not with force but with information. The history of humanity. Every war. Every failure. Every recovery. A data storm slammed into the null choir. They staggered. "They're reacting," cried a scientist. "They're trying to process it." The Aurelian remnant trembled. "No species has ever forced them to remember," it said. The null choir's song fractured. Their unity, perfect and eternal, began to crack. Individual tones emerged. Voices. Fear. At the heart of the choir, a massive central entity turned its attention fully toward Earth. Its song focused. The soul system shuddered. "This one is the conductor," Hale said. "If it reaches full resonance." "It won't," Okoye said. She opened a private channel. "Activate Echo Prime." There was a pause. Then, confirmed. Deep within Earth, the ancient core responded. Humanity's final secret. Echo Prime was not a weapon. Was a mirror. A construct designed to reflect adaptive intelligence back upon itself, forcing the null choir to experience individuality, contradiction, and self-doubt. The conductor screamed. The sound was not heard. It was felt. Across the galaxy, sensitive species collapsed as the null choir experienced something new. Human fleets surged. Not to annihilate but to contain. The conductor began to fracture, its massive form destabilizing as conflicting signals tore it apart from within. Okoye's voice softened. "This is the end," she said. "For them." The null choir began to retreat. Not because they were destroyed, but because they were changed. Broken into pieces that could no longer sing as one. They fled into the dark, their song reduced to whispers. Silence returned. The galaxy breathed again. High Arbiter Zalvoran bowed, truly bowed, toward Ambassador Ward. "The Concord was wrong," he said. "About everything." Ward nodded. "We tried to tell you," he replied quietly. In the aftermath, humanity mourned its dead. But they stood, still standing, as they always had. The galaxy watched, no longer with disdain or fear, but awe. The Aurelian remnant addressed the stars. "The cycle is broken," it said, "because humanity remembered what it means to survive." Admiral Okoye gazed at Earth, whole and alive. "This is not supremacy," she said softly. "It's responsibility." The galaxy did not celebrate. It hesitated. After the null choir fled, stars burned as they always had, trade lanes reopened and wounded fleets limped home. Yet beneath the surface of recovery, fear spread deeper than before. Because the galaxy had not been saved by an empire. It had been saved by humans. The Galactic Concord reconvened, but it was no longer the same institution. Many of its strongest members were gone. Others arrived stripped of arrogance, their guards minimal, their voices cautious. At the center of the chamber, a new symbol hovered beside the Concord seal. The Terran emblem. High Arbiter Zalvoran addressed the assembly. "The age of unchecked dominance has ended," he said. "Humanity stands as the single force capable of resisting extinction-level threats." A murmur spread. "And that," hissed a metallic delegate, "is exactly the problem." Ambassador Elias Ward stepped forward. "We do not seek to rule," he said. "We never did." Lord Croft, once loud and proud, now spoke quietly. "Yet you can," he said. "And that power changes everything." Ward met his gaze. "So does fear," he replied. Elsewhere, aboard a human tribunal vessel, War Sovereign Kragtor stood in restraints forged from human alloys. His once mighty form sagged under the weight of defeat. Admiral Okoye entered the chamber. "You came to finish me," Kragtor rasped. "No," Okoye said. "I came to listen." He laughed bitterly. "Then listen to this, the galaxy will never trust you. You broke their illusion of safety." Okoye leaned closer. "Good," she said. "Illusions get people killed." The tribunal was broadcast across the galaxy. Not to humiliate, but to be seen. Kragtor was not executed. He was judged. For invasion. For slavery. For genocide. And then, he was spared. Sentence, permanent exile beyond known space. The galaxy reeled. "They let him live," whispered countless voices. Ward addressed the Concord. "Justice is not vengeance," he said. "We know the difference because we once failed to learn it." Human fleets did not occupy conquered systems. They withdrew. Instead, humanity offered something far more dangerous. Knowledge. Shared defensive harmonics. Adaptive strategy frameworks. Early warning systems against existential threats. Some species accepted eagerly. Others refused in silence. and some plotted in the dark. Within Earth's leadership, doubt crept in. General Hale spoke quietly in a closed council. "They fear us," he said. "Even the allies." Okoye nodded. "They should. Fear keeps them honest. And if they unite against us?" Okoye's gaze hardened. "Then they prove why we had to be ready." The Aurelian remnant prepared to depart. "Our time ends," it told Ward. "The guardianship now belongs to you." Ward hesitated. "We never asked for it." "No," the Aurelian replied. "You endured it." Before leaving, it gave humanity one final warning. "Do not forget yourselves," it said. "That is how the cycle begins again." Years passed. The galaxy reshaped itself. The Concord became a council of equals, or at least closer than before. No empire dared open war without calculating one factor above all others: human response time. Humanity did not expand aggressively. They expanded quietly. Listening posts, rescue fleets, research stations at the edge of known space. Always watching. Always adapting. Then the final challenge came. A coalition of fearful powers launched a covert strike. Not against Earth but against human colonies, hoping to provoke retaliation. They miscalculated. Humanity did not rage. They isolated. Supply lines vanished. Political lies were exposed. Coalition leaders found their own populations turning against them as truth spread faster than propaganda. The coalition collapsed without a single major battle. Ward addressed the galaxy one last time. "You fear our strength," he said. "But strength is not why we survived." He paused. "We survived because when extinction came, we learned." High Arbiter Zalvoran bowed again. "The Concord recognizes humanity," he said, "not as rulers, a beat, but as apex sentinels." Admiral Okoye stood on a quiet hill on Earth, watching the sun rise. Hale joined her. "Do you think we did the right thing?" he asked. She thought of wars past, of ghosts, of stars almost lost. "Yes," she said finally. "Because we chose not to become what we feared." The galaxy slept uneasily. But it slept. Because humanity was awake. The galaxy was quiet. Not peaceful. Quiet. Stars burned as they always had, fleets traversed their lanes, and civilizations began to rebuild. But a new reality had settled. Humanity existed at the apex, not by ambition but by necessity. And everyone knew it. On the surface of Earth, Admiral Hannah Okoye walked along a ridge overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Morning light gleamed off the waters, reflecting back the color of humanity's resilience. General Marcus Hale followed. "They're watching," he said. Okoye nodded. "They always are. And now they know we see them." She gestured to the sky, though none could see what she meant. "Our fleets are out there. Not to conquer, not to dominate. To guard." Hale frowned. "And if someone tests us again?" Okoye's eyes softened, but her voice was steel. "Then we'll show them the consequence of underestimating humans." Again. Across the stars, the remnants of the Null Choir drifted in fractured silence. Their perfect unity shattered. Their consciousness splintered. They remembered for the first time, humans were not prey. Humans were adaptation itself made flesh. Some in the galaxy whispered that the choir had learned something terrifying. Survival was no longer simple conquest. It required intelligence, foresight, and resilience born of suffering. Traits humans had in abundance. In the rebuilt Concord Assembly, Ambassador Ward stood once more, watching representatives of every known species. His presence commanded attention without force. "You have seen what humanity can do," he said. "And yet we do not rule. We protect. We learn. We adapt. That is our covenant." Lord Croth, scarred but alive, inclined his head. "Your restraint," he admitted quietly, "is more dangerous than your weapons." Ward allowed himself a faint smile. "That is the point." The galaxy watched humanity with a mixture of awe, fear, and hope. Every former enemy understood. A species underestimated could reshape history in ways no calculations had foreseen. And humanity had proven it. Even the Varn Dominion, now scattered and leaderless, accepted this new order. They had tasted the weight of human intelligence and ingenuity, and lived to tell the story. On Earth, humanity celebrated quietly. Cities rebuilt. Scientists explored the stars. Pilots trained for missions beyond imagination. Children were born with the knowledge that their species had survived annihilation, not because they were strongest in firepower, but because they were cleverer, faster, and more adaptable than anything the galaxy had seen. Admiral Okoye stood once more at the orbital war chamber, looking at countless screens of distant systems. Every challenge, she said softly to Hale, every war, every threat, they all shaped us. And we survived. Not because we fought harder, but because we learned faster than extinction itself. Hale nodded. And now it watches us. Every corner of the galaxy. Okoye smiled faintly. Let them. It's time they remember, humans are not weak. The Aurelian remnant returned once more, hovering like a ribbon of light. You have done more than survive, it said. You have become the species the galaxy fears and respects equally. Guardians, not conquerors. Apex, not tyrants. Ward looked at it. We will not forget. Nor should you, the Aurelian said. For the galaxy will always test the clever, the resilient, and the stubborn. And they will always remember the ones who endured when all seemed lost. Across distant stars, human fleets moved silently. Not in aggression but in watchfulness. Hidden facilities hummed with life, adaptive systems monitoring, learning, and readying for the day the galaxy forgot the lesson of the Null Choir. And somewhere in the farthest reaches of known space, new threats whispered. But humanity was ready. Always ready. On Earth, as the sun rose over mountains and oceans, Admiral Okoye finally allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. We were underestimated, she said softly, almost to herself, by every species, every empire, every observer. And that was our strength. General Hale smiled. They thought you could break us. That we were weak. Okoye's eyes sparkled. They thought wrong. And so humanity endured. Not as rulers. Not as tyrants. Not even as gods. But as the species the galaxy had never fully understood. The apex of adaptability, cunning, and resilience. They had been underestimated. And now they were unstoppable.